Hey neighbor, it's me V. I promised you this video. I have already done the video, but I realized that it's a bit too long, so I'm going to try to condense it now. So it's a health scare that happened to me on my way to vacation. I was vacationing for a month. I was heading to London and to Jamaica. So I was going through Miami. So I left Trinidad on the day that I left Trinidad and I headed to Miami to spend the night so that I would catch the flight to London the next day. I had a very eventful day that day that I was leaving Trinidad, but that's a story for another time. So when I got to the airport, I remembered taking down my bag, and when I took my bag down, I started to really feel badly. I wasn't feeling myself that afternoon, but it felt even worse when I took my bag down. I got to the hotel hoping that I would get something to eat because I also hadn't eaten all day. I only had one small pastry, water, and tea. I went to bed. I got up the next morning hoping that I would get a really good breakfast. The breakfast really didn't do much. So I checked out and I left my heavy bag at the front desk and I went to CVS and Walgreens to see if I could get something, some snack or something salty that will keep me, because I was waiting for the shuttle to take me back to the airport later on that day. So when I got back to the hotel, I still wasn't feeling myself. The young lady at the desk, she helped me order soup, but the soup came lukewarm and greasy. She offered to take my blood pressure. I don't have high blood pressure, never had. It was normal. I was waiting in the lobby from that time on. I was talking to my family in London at the time, as well as my friends here on WhatsApp, keeping up to date. I actually reached out to one of my colleagues from grad school because the way I was feeling, I was thinking that maybe I don't feel to be on a flight for 8 to 9 hours. So I was looking for a backup if I couldn't make the flight. The young lady at the desk, she then came back and she took my pressure a second time and it was normal again. And she then said to me, I think we should just let the paramedics look at you before you get on the shuttle because you don't look like the lady who walked in here last night. And I saw the concern in her eyes, and so I opted that would be a good idea. So the paramedics came. When he got there, the guy who walked in, he came in and he saw me and he looked like, why are we here? This is not an emergency. So he then asked me to step outside because he didn't want to lift my shirt up in the lobby. I stepped outside and he was there with the gurney, and he told me, I could talk to his colleague who was seated in the ambulance. So when I walked into the ambulance, she just looked at me and she's with the same confused look, and she asked me if I've ever had a panic attack. I never had one. So she said, okay, well, let's just run the test and see. So she was just going through, looked like the run in the mill and, to dismiss me until she did the final test, and she started to panic. And she looked at me and she was saying, I didn't expect this. She just kept saying that over and over. I didn't expect this. And she kept looking at the machine and looking at me because it just wasn't making sense to her. The young man who was packing up the gurney, he was now seated in my lap and he was putting aspirin in my mouth. And they were trying to get me to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, there was a team of doctors waiting. The doctors asked me what medications I'm on. I was not on any medication because I had no medical conditions that warranted such. One of the young doctors who recognized that I looked a bit confused, he came to my side and he said, Vanessa, based on what we're seeing presented here, it appears to us that you're having a heart attack, and so we need to take you into the cath lab to see what's going on and to do whatever repairs required. While we were going into the cath lab, he was walking next to me and he said to me, Vanessa, I'm so glad that you came. So many people feel different and they do not come and they die, especially men. And that always stays with me, and that is the main reason for doing this video, because I believe that it could save a life. Now, I want to tell you that the way I felt that day, I had no pain in my chest, I had no shortness of breath, my blood pressure was normal. I'm not predisposed to heart conditions. And what is interesting, when we went into the cath lab and they saw what was wrong, they didn't put me to sleep. I was sedated while they did what they were doing. And what they told me occurred was that I had a SCAD. A SCAD is SCAD. It stands for spontaneous coronary artery dissection. And in layman's terms, that basically means that my arteries spontaneously tore. Now, the interesting thing about SCAD is that it does not target persons who are predisposed to heart disease. It targets those who are not. Generally, it does not, meaning that it generally doesn't happen to people who have cardiac issues. It happens to people who do not, right? So I fell into that category. It does not have an age restriction. It mostly happens to women. And I think that many times it will be missed because it does not present with heart pain or chest pain, anything like that. It didn't, at least not in my case. And so I wanted to share this because I think it can potentially save a life. Because had I been in Trinidad, I'd probably not even have gone to the doctor. I may have gone home and take a rest. And I'm saying this too because I know that most men would not have gone to the doctor. And so I want to encourage you to just check it out. The only thing that made the paramedics know that something was wrong with me was the ECG. And so I want to encourage you to, to advocate for yourself and so that the right checks could be made. Because had it been done in Trinidad, the doctor was saying that he didn't think I would survive. Not because our medical practitioners are not great, but because my statistics would have worked against me in that they would have eliminated a heart attack as part of the diagnosis. Feel free to message me if you have any questions. I am willing to share about my experience further. So you can direct message me or email me. I hope this helps. See you later.